Right, hey guys, how are we doing? Back on another video from Any News, continuing with the Shield Hero Season 2 cut content. We are checking out what is happening in Season 2 Shield Hero, the truth behind Oast, and the Tortoise arc. Let's just get straight into it because it is a little bit confusing.
One of the main things I think is making Shield Hero less enjoyable than it was before is the lack of context being given for the purpose of this arc.
Yeah, there's a lot happening and there's no reason
provided for what this tortoise is even doing, resulting in the past few episodes feeling like they're completely irrelevant to the story we built up in the first season.
Like, where's it going? It does seem quite rushed.
This giant kaiju is much more prevalent to the plot than the anime makes it seem. It's the initiation of the path Victoria had been trying to avoid.
Oh, okay.
One that saves the world, but at the cost of...
Because it does seem like it's just like, let's rush this out there.
What we'll cover in this cut content is the more pertinent details behind how the spirit tortoise and the waves are related. Everything you
cool,
need to know
yes,
to
like, because it's stopping the waves, isn't it?
right
That guy's weird.
Keep in mind, though, that this does build upon information I've shared in my previous videos.
Very, very good videos, and I feel like I wouldn't understand what's going on if I hadn't watched those cut content videos.
Anyway, episode 29, The Country Above the Spirit Tortoise, covering Chapter 16 from Volume 6 and Chapters 9 to 10 from Volume 7.
Oh.
If you're wondering what the initial 8 chapters in between are, well, that's actually a massive rematch between Naofumi and the Spirit Tortoise.
Oh, Jesus.
The second fight that takes place before Naofumi even enters the cave here.
Oh, what?
With that being such a prominent event in the novel, though, I don't think it's something the anime would so casually disregard like that.
Yeah,
so
let's...
rather than focus on
I reckon they'll bring it back, they'll do that.
Later, I'll instead focus on the cut content from the chapters we did see. Events like the ruined village and the discovery of the Tortoise Shrine. Starting right after the tortoise had been slain, there was another meeting being held to discuss what's next. Mainly because a couple things felt off about the whole endeavor. The first was that the fight felt way too easy, and the second was the fact that the blue hourglass still had
It's still there. Right, okay, cool.
That alone was enough to indicate the problem still wasn't solved yet. So, considering how much of this still remained a mystery, the logical next steps were to investigate the tortoise itself. Naofumi and the Queen would search the mountains that constituted its shell, while the 7-star heroes would divert to its land of origin to see if anything else was there. Then, if nothing could be found from that, they could at least backtrack the tortoise's path and search for clues of the other heroes. Remember, they were still missing after having tried to fight the tortoise themselves. No one knew what
well, that's true, and then,
them,
like, it's a weird one, because that's not been explained in the anime, it's like,
So, Naofumi could only hope they had run away after seeing how outmatched they were. Now, with that being the primary plan, it was the first village on the tortoise's back that had the shrine in it. An old temple that seemed to be dedicated to the spirit tortoise.
And we saw
The key
this.
thing to note from the mural inside was the Japanese message left by
I thought that was cool. It's like, whoa, okay.
A very degraded letter in which some of the words were missing. Of the ones we could see, the entire thing dictated this. It was a pretty broken statement that seemed to provide a warning. The first thing to stick out to Naofumi was the connection between the number 7 and its mention.
7, yeah, so then he...
Perhaps whatever this 7 was the reason the seal had broken in the first place. The next word to stick out after was the keyword goal in the next line. There wasn't very much to go on regarding what this referenced, but the following lines of sacrifice seemed to align with what Victoria had been saying.
That sacrifice will be
So,
rewarded.
when taking the context of what he knew from her,
Ah,
Naofumi was able to piece together the goal this sacrifice was being made for. Now, the last two things to note about this message was the number 8, which Naofumi couldn't relate to anything, as well as the apparent scratch marks which indicated the section on how to defeat it was erased on purpose. Those were the two aspects Naofumi couldn't really make sense of. That said, there was also a very real possibility that the writing could mean something different depending on the hero who wrote it. Just like how Ren and the others came from a Japan different from Naofumi's.
Oh yeah, they did, I forgot about that, yeah.
These characters meant something different. I mean, just the passing of time makes certain words start to bear different meanings.
That's very true.
So, even if this message
like, if you use the word literally now, it does not have the same meanings it did like 30 years ago.
The same as the one the original writer intended for it. That's why such care needed to be taken when deciphering messages like this one. Now, this next part isn't really all that important, but I do find it interesting with the way it's portrayed in the anime.
Right, okay.
You see, the soldiers weren't all respectful and melancholic like how they showed us here.
Interesting.
Well, at least not yet anyway. When Naofumi had finished searching the temple, he had come out to find the soldiers were actually about to loot the castle.
Oh.
The place he was planning to investigate next. That being the case, he couldn't just let them take whatever they wanted when some valuable information could be.
Could learn some stuff, guys, come on.
To investigate the rest of the mountain, the the old lady, Eclair, and Philo would work with the Queen to stop any looting. And that's a small aspect I feel would have added quite a bit more to the anime.
That would have been quite nice.
It's not very important to the plot, but the incorporation of it does make the whole situation seem a bit more real. I mean, it's only natural that after a disaster such as this, all sorts of nefarious types would be attracted to take advantage of it.
Oh yeah.
It's an additional layer of depravity to an already grim situation. Something the anime was only able to portray through partially rotting corpses. Now, with that being the last chapter from Volume 6, it's the next ones from Volume 7 that really delve into Naofumi's efforts to find the other heroes.
Okay, there we go.
Remember, this was the whole reason he'd even come out here in the first place. Unless he could find the other heroes, then the only option left to stop the waves was through monumental sacrifice.
Which we don't want to do.
Non-stop searching that Naofumi would finally come across Ost for the very first time.
Oh.
But rather than her showing up to the meeting with the Coalition, her first true appearance was actually during an intense fight with the zombie chimera.
Okay.
An enemy Naofumi wouldn't have been able to kill if not for her assistance.
This is really weird. Like, this is all over the place, isn't it?
Such a high regenerative ability that the combined attacks of everyone still wasn't able to kill it. It was an unfathomably stronger and scarier version than the neutered one we got in the anime.
Okay. Because I thought that looked pretty cool anyway, but if we got something that's better cool looking, damn! Throw it in.
That's when Ost began to introduce herself much like how she did in the anime. The only difference is that she'd also brought with her a warning that the spirit tortoise had awakened, leading to a second and far more intense fight against it.
Yo.
For a bit more information on Ost herself, though, well, aside from what we were shown in Episode 2, there was a lot more context given to establish her purpose. Stuff that explains the basis for this spirit tortoise arc in the first place. So, as we know from the anime, yes, she did manipulate countries in order to get them to fight, but the countless souls created would be used to stop the waves after.
Stop the waves,
regardless of whether they were
kind of good intentions.
Each gathered soul could be used to form a defensive barrier that would protect the world. Thus the whole sacrifice for the sake of the world thing. That being the case, that meant the spirit tortoise's whole existence amounted to a single purpose. It was created solely to kill anything and everything that would help to establish this barrier. It was a tool that would save the world through an unquantifiable amount of life. Now, this wasn't something Naofumi was completely against, but the way Ost spoke indicated that the amount of souls needed was apocalyptic. Like, if it wasn't pretty much the entire world at stake, then Naofumi had no problem letting the tortoise do whatever it wanted. So long as he was able to protect the people he cared for, then Naofumi couldn't care less about anyone else who died. That was just the person he was right now. In any case, it was after Ost had explained who she was that Naofumi then went on to find out how much she really knew. Perhaps she could explain what this new blue hourglass was. Well, according to her, this new symbol was an indication of how many souls had been gathered. And the sign at the end referred to the wave's current power level. This was all the information she knew as an entity created to protect the world.
Because I thought it was weird, it's like 7. There's no way it's only got 7 souls.
Occurred, but she did know that they all paled in comparison to the one they would have to deal with next. You see, the previous waves were at most a level 2 or level 3 disaster. So, if the next one was all the way at level 7, that meant it would be at least twice as hard as anything Naofumi.
Which is gonna be crazy, man.
It was a level of difficulty he couldn't even begin to fathom.
Yeah, like, how do you even contemplate that?
The reason Ost was asking for his help was because the spirit tortoise's body had become unable to achieve its mission now. No longer was it gathering souls specifically for the purpose of creating a barrier. Instead, someone had taken control and was planning to use that energy for something else. That being the case, it made sense then that Ost was willing to do whatever she could to prevent those souls from being lost in vain. She couldn't allow her main body to simply be used as this medium to collect copious amounts of energy. She wasn't sure who or what the culprit was planning, but she knew for sure that they weren't trying to save the world.
No, definitely
not. What's interesting
not.
to note about the culprit themselves, though, is that the person could only be someone who was capable of breaking the tortoise's seal. And that was knowledge only given to those who could defeat the tortoise in combat.
Right.
So, with that being just the holy heroes and the vassal weapon wielders, there wasn't really an extensive list of people Ost had to search for. The key thing to focus on was identifying those strong enough to kill the tortoise. Thus the reason she had appeared before Naofumi here. Now, if we skip past the epic fight against the new...
That looks sick.
Tortoise,
3 heads!
That brings us to Naofumi's journey through the inner caves of its shell. A journey into the tortoise to find its heart and stop it for good this time. An important distinction that does need to be made, though, is that, unlike how the tortoise was still attempting to regenerate in the anime, it was actually mid-battle in the novels.
Oh, whoa, damn.
Prominent sense of urgency
yeah, like, we gotta get that done. That's
raw. Another second the Coalition would would have to spend fighting. It was a highly time-sensitive mission in which the longer it went, the more people they would lose.
Damn.
So, as waves and waves of familiars were fought, the deeper they went, Naofumi would eventually come across Glass and the others, bringing us now to the end of episode 4. But yeah, that's pretty much a brief overview of what's been happening.
Interesting.
So far. The entire arc is just a convoluted way of showing us what Victoria had been talking about last season. Naofumi could either work with the heroes and save the people, or he could let the Tortoise commit mass genocide and save the world. The only problem is that the Tortoise, as it was now, wasn't even doing that. Some unknown enemy had gone and turned this giant killing machine into their own personal mount. So, as I'm sure you now know, there's a lot more going on here than what the anime has led us to believe.
Yeah, it's crazy, like, what? This is the most interesting cut content series yet, I feel.
That's all I got for today's cut content. Now, before I go, I do want to quickly highlight this new YouTube feature called Super Things. It's basically a new way to support the channel through the comments.
Oh.
By no means am I suggesting that any of you should use it, but if you do decide to, then I'll put your name at the end of the next video. It's the least I could do to say thanks for your generous support.
That's an interesting one.
But anyway,
how do I get that?
As always, thank you so much for watching, and if you enjoyed this type of anime content, then you already know what to do. So, until next time.
Ciao! Damn, there's so much going on that's not being shown, which is crazy. It's blowing my mind. I'm really enjoying this cut content series right now. And I've watched the next episode afterwards as well. Because what I tend to be doing is just like watching episodes weekly before this, and I'm kind of rushing stuff. And at the moment, my internet's awful. In fact, I don't have internet. I'm hotspotting off of my phone to upload videos. It's taking forever. So like, seeing this was like 11 minutes was okay. It's only going to take like a few hours to upload. Hopefully by next week I'll have the internet sorted and I'll have longer videos out. But yeah, thank you to my patrons. If you want to have your name at the end of every video I upload, link in the description to the Patreon page. $1 a month is all I ask to help support the channel. It's greatly appreciated. Thank you guys very much for that. And thank you all for watching. What do you guys think of that? What do you guys think of this? Click like, subscribe, and leave comments down below. Let me know what I should watch and discuss in future videos. And I'll see you guys, all you guys, next time.